So I'm going to start recording. So we record every session. We post this on YouTube. This is the Sunday Market Blitz. So Nick and myself have been pretty much doing these calls on Sundays for about 3 years now, a little over 3 years now. We just hop in, cover all of our analysis for the week. Nick breaks down about 6 pairs. I break down about 6 pairs, including like BTC, and then I do some Forex, some NAS 100. Nick covers gold because I know a lot of you guys want to look at gold for the week, and we just kind of put together our ideas for you guys and show our analysis. And this is all swing trading based. So the strategy that Nick and myself use and kind of teach in our programs is just all swing trading. So we'll start on the higher time frames and just work our ways down to the lower time frame. So that being said, we're pretty much going to get into it. We are going to do a giveaway throughout the call. We've been doing a giveaway pretty much every call every week. So I'll announce the rules for that later in the webinar. So if you guys obviously want to participate in that, normally we announce it about halfway through or whatever. And then if you guys have any questions, just post in the chat and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. So I'm going to give Nick the permission to share, and he's going to just get into it.
All right, let's do it. So guys, as Angelo said, we are swing traders with, well, this strategy, at least we're going to go over, is swing trading with a focus on trend trading and price action. So really not using that many indicators. I'm going to go through my thoughts, through my method, guys, and just tear through these charts. So let's do it. We're going to start off with DXY, which most of you guys should know that we don't actually trade. This is just essentially showing us the strength of the US dollar, which we want to be aware of because it makes up for 80% of all trade. And if you guys have looked at the charts lately, whatever the dollar's doing, it's kind of rippling through the market, dragging some pairs up, dragging some pairs down. So there's a lot of impact from the US dollar. So it's good to be aware of it. So what we're going to do first is go to the daily time frame. I'm going to do this on pretty much every pair. And what we want from the daily time frame is just the overall trend. So we can honestly just do like a one look, zoom out a little bit, see what the overall trend is, right? Very clearly, this is bullish, strong characteristics of a bullish trend, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, breaks of resistance, newfound support, and so on. So very much bullish, pretty overextended, if I must say. The dollar's just kind of been rallying lately, really just kind of at an unsustainable, pace, but it is still super bullish. So that's something to be aware of. Let's go to the 4 hour now. I'm going to do this on every pair as well, and I'm going to consider 2 trade scenarios. One bullish, high probability bullish setup, one high probability bearish setup. Okay, so we can see that here on the 4 hour, it lines up trend-wise with the daily, both bullish. And we can see that we just recently reached a new high here, a new 0%. So we threw a fib on it. We measured the most recent rally, and we could see ourselves pretty much right around 107.6, right, which is our 38.2 level. So because the dollar's overextended, we know that it could just, pull back pretty much at any point, but we don't see anything like that yet, right? Obviously, you look at this chart, nothing here suggests that it's bearish. It's got very strong bullish structure. So the most likely scenario is that we'll continue bullish, right? We'll find some support off 107.6, find some rejection here, start pushing up into the week. If this happens, we can comfortably and confidently say the dollar's bullish for the next week, and we'll make trades accordingly. We'll, do our analysis accordingly, and we're aware of that. Okay, now if for this bullish scenario to kind of be deemed invalid, we need to see 107.6 break, and then kind of, we want to see emerge a 4 hour bearish trend. So that means a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and so on. So we just need a 4 hour transition, and then we can start looking at this a little bit more bearishly, and we'll start looking down towards, massive or key support levels, 105, maybe 103, we'll see. But for right now, nothing really says it's bearish yet. Definitely looking like it's gonna move higher into the week. So we'll keep that in mind. That's DXY. Let's go to our first tradable pair, and that's gonna be AU. So I'm gonna go to the daily time frame and just grab the trend, right? What trend does this price action represent here? Lower lows, lower highs, breaks of support, retest of resistance, right? Lower lows, lower highs, and so on. So this is clearly bearish here on the daily. We've actually been falling off pretty hard for AU. These are some big swings. Normally AU is a slow moving pair. We have a 400 pip swing just on this leg here. So it's interesting, to note. AU's been kind of picking up volume from its norm. So let's go to the 4 hour. See what's going on here. Overall, this is bearish as well. We had just broke key support at 0.685 right here, as you guys can see. We broke lower. We got a lower low. Price action danced around this zone before finally we got this lower high. right? Nice little double top. And then came the next lower low down at 0.67. So from here, after we hit 0.67, we've been kind of bouncing right between these two zones. 0.68 is resistance, right, which is broken structure here. And then also 0.67 as support. So we could kind of treat this like a range. We know we're overall bearish, so the most likely thing to happen, and because it is a range, is that we'll reverse around 0.68. If we can get a really clean example of a price action, reversal, we could be seeing a nice setup to start targeting lower. Think about getting back down towards 0.67. Okay, the trick here is to look for lower highs specifically that are really, really clear. Okay, like 10 out of 10 situations. A nice reversal, good rejection, nice engulfing, super clear on the 1 hour and 30 minute. That could be a setup there. So this is the most likely, right? It fits the overall bearish trend. We're at key resistance, and also for a range, this is definitely, a lot of factors lining up that suggest that this is going to dump. Now, what do we need to see to look at this chart and say AU is more bullish, right? We need to see price action break through these two levels, ideally above 0.685. Then we get a higher low, and then that would say to us, this is now the start of a 4-hour bullish trend, and we'd be interested in taking long scenarios off this new support level. Start targeting higher towards key levels here around 0.695 and then 0.7. But obviously we're pretty far from that. We need to see quite a bit out of AU before we can consider this bullish, right? So for now, we're looking for this short opportunity to play out. It's very close to happening. We really only need a few candles to set up, and then we could be looking at a nice short opportunity. So this is on the watch list. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. We'll keep an eye on this one. But yeah. So that's AU. Let's go to AJ. Daily time frame. Same thing. What's the overall trend? And this one's very clear as well. Very much bullish. Right. We had a huge rally to a new high here at 95. Came back down, got a higher low, up to the high again, and now we're kind of consolidating. So let's get a closer look. Definitely bullish. Definitely been moving upward the last couple months. So let's see what the 4 hours doing. The 4 hours interesting because we actually have a transition. So this was bearish, right? Price action fell. We ranged a little bit. We broke this floor here at 92.85. Then we started forming this pattern. Okay, and we broke this lower high here and this one. These two actually, right? And 92.85 resistance. We broke above it. Gave us a higher low, and now we're moving higher. So this is a transition from a 4-hour bearish trend. See, we're moving down, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and now we're getting higher highs and higher lows, right after a 4-hour lower high is broken. So it's a clean transition. So we're newly bullish on the 4-hour. Let's zoom in a little bit more, make this a little bit more clear. So what's the likelihood of us continuing bullish? It's actually pretty high. We just need to see structure at this point, right? We're pretty far from a trade entry. There's nothing up here that we can enter on, long or short. There's really just nothing there. Waiting for more of a confluence error to present itself. 61.8 looks really, really clear. And that's going to find us right at 93.25. So price action comes down, gives us a higher low. Nice, strong bullish candlestick setups to enter on. And this is what the trade would look like, actually. Let's mark it up. So we're looking at roughly 125. Stop loss is going to be somewhere between 30 and 40. Slightly will vary depending on where that price action comes in, how it executes. But yeah, definitely over a 2-to-1 could be a pretty good trade for this week. We just have to see something play out. We're kind of, when we're so like between two zones and we've just been rallying, there's just not enough price action to really make any decisions at this point. That's why we want to play conservative, look for the high probability setups, ones that we can get, a lot of confidence in, and we'll have to wait for this to pull back. So just for some perspective, from the top of the candle down towards 681, we need about an 85 pip retracement, right? And then price action's got to come back in with the bullish setups. I mean, we are seeing some rejection at this high right now. It's a possibility. We'll see. So we're looking long on AJ. What has to happen for us to look at this chart and say it's more, bearish now? We would need to see a break of 92.85. So price action falls, takes out these levels, gives us a new low, then gives us a lower high. Then we could consider shorts. This would be a pretty large move. And if that volume does stick and continue with the bearish move, we could have a really nice trade down towards 91 support. Okay, so not too complicated. It's more of a waiting game. But our options are pretty simple. Right, waiting for the higher low and 61.8 fib level, or waiting for the lower high below 92.85. Right now, there are obviously other ways price action could play out. This could just rally now into 95 and then come back. But these two trade scenarios are kind of highlighting the highest probability trades that I could see based on, price action right now. Right, where if these were to happen, these would be like 10 out of 10 setups, like perfect setups according to my strategy. But yeah, there's obviously, this could consolidate, this could rally. But yeah, these are the, consider them the ideal scenarios for us to then enter a trade. So that's AJ. Let's go to UJ, which is actually looking pretty good, setting up nicely. But before we get down to the setups, let's go to the daily and just assess the trend. I mean, guys, this is like the biggest example of a bullish trend. I mean, geez, higher highs, higher lows, higher high, all the way up here, new higher low above, broken resistance, new support, then a continuation. So super, super bullish. Let's go to the 4 hour and see what we can make of this. Okay, so we actually had a really good situation on this last week. After this ranging broke, so we're ranging above 134.5, which we just broke above. So that was a good sign. Price action continued, right? Nice rally through to a new high. Came back down for a higher low, and this was the setup here. I had to analyze this last Sunday, and I was recommending longs off this area once a confirmed higher low presents itself. So this played out, and then some. It actually exceeded my TP by a lot. But it's looking like a similar setup, right? We're at a new high. Now we need structure to form, ideally 61.8, because that lines up pretty well with this high. That would just be loads of confluence. And if we did reject from there, and we got another higher low, that would be really, really nice setup. Let's see here. We're targeting the -27, looking like about 220 pips, risking 50, and you could even play with this a little bit more. 2 to 1 minimum is all the way down here, right? 110 for 220. So you'll have some room on this. This will be a really good trade, well above 2 to 1, which is perfect. So I'm not even going to really recommend a short scenario on this for two reasons. One, the dollar is just, skyrocketing. I'm not really going to give you guys, a bearish setup because it's probably not going to happen for a while. And we are super far from 136.5, which would be the level that I need to see break before I would comfortably consider shorts. So to give you guys a visual, it would need to look like this, right? It would need to break lower and then see that lower high below 136.5. So it's super far away from happening. And that's just because of how bullish this chart has been. And we could fall all the way to 136.5 and still technically be bullish, right? We could, pull all the way back to there and then continue upward again. So I wouldn't be sold on a short scenario until we break below 136.5 and see structure. Okay. So that's why I just gave you guys that bullish scenario, which is, it's pretty likely. I mean, this is a high probability setup if it does play out this way. So that's UJ. Yeah, looking pretty good. I love clean price action. I mean, this is textbook, right? Break of a range, higher low, in on that. Even this one, if it shapes up nicely. Good stuff. We got some good setups this week. So let's go to EJ. Daily time frame. What's going on? Okay, so this one is actually, it's interesting to say. I mean, it is technically overall bullish still. I would say until 137 is broken. I mean, we've had higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows now. So that, I mean, this is really until 137 is broken that we're going to consider this bearish. But let's go to the 4 hour for a second. I want to show you guys what's happening because we are technically bearish here on the 4 hour, right? We could see higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Then we started to get the change here, right? We broke this higher low, got a new low, got a lower high. Then we took out this level here at 140, which was this higher low. So definitely bearish now since we broke through these two levels. And we've kind of been rejecting off this level here, 38.2 minorly. Didn't really hold. Price action pulled back a little bit more. And now price action is resting at the 50% right at our 140 resistance level. So this is a little bit tricky. I mean, it's very likely that we're going to continue bearish. We've yet to see the kind of confirmation yet. We're spending a good amount of time up here. Look at all this chop. So this could continue to, develop. Could take a while. Could happen pretty quickly, tomorrow or something. But either way, we're looking for a nice reversal from 140, ideally some wicks, then some nice engulfings to then enter on. The problem is with EJ, sometimes, if this does take off and we get these huge volume candles, it's going to skew our risk to reward. So it might be a small window of opportunity when it finally does choose its direction or when it does finally reverse from here. But I mean, we are expecting you know, that to some degree here. So I'll be keeping an eye on price action. If I could spot a nice reversal, this would be, you know, ideal. I'll even mark this up to show you guys the visual behind it. Targeting down towards 137. Let's call it 250. And then your stop loss is going to vary probably anywhere between 60 and 100 comfortably. But this is well over 2-to-1 as well. You're going to be able to play with this stop loss a little bit, depending on where that, you know, price action actually comes in and starts to execute. Okay, so this is a likely scenario that we're just going to continue bearish, catch a nice reversal off 140. But what has to happen for us to kind of consider the opposite? The first thing I'd like to see is, you know, obviously a break of 140, a new high, then structure above. I'm not sure I would actually, hold on, let's see what this would be here. What's the distance on this? I didn't check this. So 180. Okay, so the volume here is enough between these two zones that you'll probably be able to get a good trade, but I'm really looking for this higher level to break as well. So this would be kind of a two-part scenario. You'd be looking to get at least 2-to-1 by this resistance up here. And then the same thing you're looking for above. And I would break this into two trades because I would expect some sort of reactions at this resistance level here. Let me just put this in so you guys can see it. 141.7. Right, so this would be a two-part trade. I would expect some sort of reaction here. I would close the trade here and then look to re-enter if we broke through and got new structure. So just continuing to enter on these higher lows as we break through resistance, find them as new support, and continue higher. So if you look to the left, there is a lot of traffic, right? We've seen a lot of chop, a lot of bouncing between these two zones in the past, and then especially up here as well. Right, so I would just play it zone to zone. I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I wouldn't target some crazy, 400 pip trade. I would definitely break it up into two and just, treat each one individually, manage it accordingly. So those are really the scenarios I'm looking at. Not too keen on this bullish scenario yet, because obviously there's so many factors lining up for a bearish trade, right? 4 hours looking super strong. We're seeing high volume. We have rejected quite a bit and spent a good amount of time down here. So really, this would be the most ideal reversal at 140, targeting lower, nice trend continuation, and then we'll have another good trade. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking for EJ this week. We'll be watching that one. But let's move over to gold. Gold, daily time frame. What's the overall trend? Super bearish, right? Lower lows, lower highs. We're still trying to find the lower low. But overall, I mean, guys, strong characteristics of a bearish trend, right? And then it all kind of went to shit over here at 1930. Right after this consolidation broke, it attempted to go bullish, fell just short of 2K, and then melted from there. Right, so we've really been bearish since all the way back here in 1930. And we've just been kind of strengthening this trend as we're breaking through key support levels, testing them as resistance, right here at 1875, big level. Spent some time there and then dumped. So yeah, gold's been on the fall lately. Let's go to the 4 hour and see if we could spot any setups. But yeah, I mean, gold's been moving quite a bit. So this is that recent bearish leg, right? Thing kind of just slid off pretty hard. We threw a fib on it. Yet to form structure, which is really the key, especially when trading gold. It could screw you over pretty quickly. You got to be careful. So I like to try and find every setup for gold to be a 10 out of 10, meaning like perfect price action. I have structure. I'm not just buying at these lows, especially after a high volume move. Really want to make sure that we're getting something, clear and, kind of like unmanipulated, right? We just want clear structure, clear trend, clear price action. And that's where the highest probability setup's going to come in. So I have this bearish scenario outlined where price action pulls back. We get a lower high closer to 38.2, preferably with more volume than these guys here, right? There's no real clear price action in this. This is all low volume chop. So if this comes up with, pretty big effort, good sized candles, nice reversal, we'll see that volume kind of switch up on us. And then we'll see an engulfing, something like that, bearish variation, even a pattern, some sort of reversal. Anything like that would be super clear. And then we're entering on, price action confirmation, targeting down towards our monthly support level at 1675. It's going to give us almost 550 pips, pretty close. And then we're going to risk about 200 for somewhere around a 3-to-1. So again, this will slightly vary, guys. It always will, depending on where that confirmation really comes in. I mean, we can get an engulfing all the way down here, right? Still at a 2-to-1, so it's still acceptable. And then we could probably bring the stop down a little bit to 200, something like that. Okay, so now what has to happen for us to look at this chart and say, oh, it's bullish? We're considering bullish scenarios, looking for longs. We would need to see all this chop here break and this 1740 level. So price action shoots above, we get a new high, get a higher low. Then all of a sudden we have what's looking like a 4-hour bullish trend, right? Something like that could be of interest to us. And then we'll look for that higher low to enter on potentially. And this is what it would look like for a visual. Somewhere around a 4-to-1, risking around 120 for like 460, something like that. So yeah, we got some opportunity. Just really need to wait and see. I mean, either way, for the long or the short scenario, for us to get comfortable, we need to see at least 250 pips out of gold, right? It's got to retrace at least 250 before we start getting close to an entry where we're looking at the chart and saying, okay, it could break, go for the higher high, or it could reverse. Now we're, kind of locked in, looking at the chart, waiting for those setups to, come through. But yeah, so at least 250 pips, and then we'll be interested in trades. But yeah, that's gold, guys. I mean, when price action's kind of just sliding off, you can't really do anything till it finds the low. Then it starts going to form structure. If you miss this trade over here, you had this was your window of opportunity. Really, these guys, these two. If you miss those two, you're waiting. You got to wait for structure. And this is still playing out. It's still doing its thing. This could continue to dump. Maybe it wants to find support at 1675, and then it wants to go for the pullback. That's a possibility too. But until we get structure, we don't have a high probability trade. Something super clear where I would have so much confidence I can walk away from the chart because I know I'm doing everything right. Per my strategy, I know what's, X amount of trades are going to work out, X amount or not. I just want that confidence to show, and we haven't seen anything yet since back here. All right, so that's gold, and that's actually the last pair I'm going to cover. So I can do a quick recap. I covered DXY, looking bullish, AU, looking bearish, just need some setups. Ooh, it's not gonna, why is that not loading? There we go. AJ, definitely in a long move right now. Hopefully we can get some structure. UJ, looking for that higher low, kind of a repeat setup from last week with more volume. EJ, ooh, wait, need that 140 reversal. That'd be perfect. And then gold simply needs structure. Yeah, so not bad, guys. We got some setups, got some things in front of us, but just need to wait a little bit. It's still Sunday. We got plenty of time in the week, but that's all I'm going to cover for now. I'm going to pass off to Angelo. Let's see what he's looking at. Thanks, guys.
Cool. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, again, feel free to post in the chat. See some people ask some questions. If you guys joined late, we are recording it, so you can just go back and look over all the analysis that Nick just did. And like I said in the beginning, we are going to be doing a giveaway. For you guys to qualify for the giveaway, just post on your IG story that you guys are on the call. Just show the charts, whatever. So all you have to do to participate is post an IG story. And then what we're going to do, we'll pick one person, and one person will win a 10K challenge for Funded Trader. So you can go ahead, do that throughout while I'm going through my analysis. I'm going to get started with DXY like Nick did. We both like to look over this first because it's just good to get an overall sentiment of where the dollar is going for the week. So let's just zoom out on this a little bit. So going into last week, if you guys hopped on the call, we were discussing about this area right here. So obviously last week's candle, we ended very bullish, but then we had a lot of buyers exhaustion at the top here. So we pulled back a little bit towards the end of the week, 2 weeks ago. And then last week, obviously, we just pushed up. So going into last week, we kind of talked about this and said, we're not at a resistance level. We're not at a support level. We're right in the middle of both of these. It's very likely that price is going to come up to try to test this area, or it's going to be pushed down back into this area. These are really the two levels that I'm using as a gauge right here on how to actually interpret what's going on with this. So for you guys that haven't been on the session before, pretty much what I do on the weekly, I always start on the weekly time frame, and I just like to zoom out, and I like to see overall where are my actual levels at. So let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. As you can see, price hasn't been up in this area for quite some time. And by some time, I mean literally like 20 years, price hasn't been up here. So pretty wild times that we're in right now with the dollar and everything going on. Regardless, though, we have this level right here. And then we have this level up here. And this level is based on, if we go back and zoom out, we have some support here. We have resistance right there, resistance here, support there. So what I'm really mainly looking for when I'm drawing my levels are very significant areas where there is either support or resistance. As you can see here, this rejection was really significant as it moved to the downside with a lot of volume here, even a lot of rejection. And on the flip side, we had a break and a retest right there. So we definitely had some support that flung it up. And then here we had some rejection. And then here, obviously, we moved to the downside. And then more recently, we had come up to this level, rejected it. So this kind of solidified that there was a lot of orders sitting in this area. Then we actually broke through here. So price, as you can see, broke to the upside. And that's when I'll go ahead and I'll draw my next level. So I've got my next level up here. Let's just go over what is this one based on. I normally don't zoom out this far, but considering how we haven't been in this area in so long, we really have to grab some levels here. So zooming in a little bit, looking at what this one is based on, we have some support up in this area. We have some resistance right there. And then we have, as we zoom in, we have some resistance right here. We have support there, some consolidation and support right there, some resistance there. Probably could draw this level a little bit better. And once price kind of comes up there, maybe I will revise this one a little bit. If I just zoom out again, probably just move this one down just a little bit, just so it covers some things with more significance. So now we have some nice support. We have that resistance right there. And with moving it down, let's actually see how that changes things. So as we can see now, it looks like price is already tagged in that area. I like to use these as kind of general zones. I don't live and die by them per se, but they are a good judgment of where we're currently at. So to break this down weekly, got my zones marked. Obviously, we're looking to reject from the upside. Candlesticks, this is like an inverted hammer candle. So this is a reversal signal right here. Obviously, the trend very bullish. This thing has just been making these higher highs and going on this like bullish run to the upside right here. And then if we were to go down to the 4 hour and just look at this, we could very clearly see that we were just in an uptrend forming these higher highs and higher lows. So ultimately what we really need to see is we need to see some type of pattern form. Ideally we would see something like, maybe we see like a head and shoulders pattern form, then we get in on the right shoulder, right? That's normally a great pattern to get into. Or we end up seeing some sort of break of this level before forming the right shoulder, and then we try to take a sell to the downside. I really like to trade based on the zones, like somewhere in this area. So if this pattern played out, just because of how solid it normally is, I would try to trade this pattern. If this broke support, this would be a more risky trade for me, just because there is the possibility that this thing does hunt for some sort of liquidity up at this level, considering it's either going to look here, it's going to look here. So DXY, personally, I don't normally trade this pair. I just look at this for overall direction. The way that it looks right now is we are clearly very bullish. We have some resistance up here. We are on a pullback right now, but to me, we're just in a pretty bullish trend right now. So let's go to NZD USD. Let's see what's going on with this one. We had taken this sell last week, or a couple weeks ago actually, and then last week we drew out this flag pattern, then it broke out of the flag. And we had some rejection to the downside. So this did end up playing out. But let's go over this a little bit. So going back to last week, we met on the 10th. So this is pretty much right when the market opened. This is really right when we were on the call, was when price was up in this area. We drew the flag. We were saying that we were looking for the break to the downside, but just look at the confirmations that line up here. I have my red zone. So this is based on a higher time frame. A lot of orders sitting in this area, and we're obviously rejecting it. Then we had a flag, and then we were in a downtrend. Clearly, we're retesting a previous lower high. So this is an extremely high probability trade to take. And then if we look at this point, so this trade ended up going up, not nearly 2-to-1. If you measure to the peak, it was up over 2-to-1. At that point, I do like to move stops to break even, and looking at how price has reversed now. So we actually broke trend. So we broke this trend line. We broke this lower high right here. This is shaping up for a typical kind of reversal pattern right now. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to delete this. And I'm also going to delete, or let's actually leave this on. So for you guys that are on the call that are pretty much beginners, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is a very easy way for you guys to try to understand market structure, is just hide the actual candlesticks. I have this whole downtrend drawn here. And then as we can see here, we finally have this break of this lower high. We have the trend line broken. So this is just market structure 101, downtrend to an uptrend. Now we're looking for the market to start to do something like this. You know, now that we've broken some resistance, ideally we enter in this area. So let's bring the candlesticks back on. So for you guys that are beginners, easy way to evaluate market structure, you know, on the in the actual market, hide the candles so you don't get all confused, and then you can kind of see things a bit more clearly. So looking at this, considering DXY is in an interesting area, it is in an uptrend as we mentioned, but it is facing some resistance. This is pretty interesting right here. Pretty much the trade that I would take on this pair, I wouldn't do anything right now, personally. We're in my resistance zone. We're retesting this lower high. Yes, we just broke here, but I personally would want to swing trade this in a much better spot. And I would be looking for price to make it above this 6,200 level, which would be we're clearing this other lower high. This is a very significant level of support previously as well. So if we break above here, we're going to look for the retest right there. And it's as simple as this. We're literally looking for swing trades. We're not trying to force trades. If price shows us this, we throw our stops somewhere in this area. This is our next main level of resistance up at about 62.8, 6,300. And this would be about a 3-to-1 risk reward trade if this thing goes back. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm going to leave this on here. And if this ends up playing out, you know, we'll see. Now to the downside, say we start to reject this because of the fact that we just broke structure right here, I would have to see a lot of consolidation in this area. So we're building orders right here. We're building liquidity, whatever you want to call it. And then we're seeing a consolidating market. And then I would love to see an impulse below the support if this formed. And then that's when I would set like a sell limit or take a sell to the downside. So considering we just broke structure, this is just something that I found is like, I won't take a trade until I see this. Is basically we've broken structure. This is not now a lower high. You know, we're out of the trend. I would have to see this reject this multiple times, form maybe a pattern. This would be a double top right here. Maybe it forms some other pattern, breaks to the downside, retest, and then goes. So that's NZD USD. Personally, don't have a trade lined up right now. So let's move to GU. So this one we've been maintaining some sells on this. We took sells a couple weeks ago, and this thing has still been moving to the downside pretty nicely. Ultimately, if we come up to the weekly time frame, it's a bit tough to judge where this thing is going to go, just because literally has never been this low before, right? It's never been this low in value. So I pretty much just set the target at the bottom, which is where these wicks hit at previously, which is right around the 1.144, 1.14500 area. So that's kind of where I set the targets. That's a bit wishful thinking whether we're going to get down to that area or not. But as long as structure is being maintained, I'm not really going to get out of this trade. We can clearly see as of right now, we're up 2-to-1. At the peak, it was up 3-to-1. If it does hit our target, we'll be up about 6.5-to-1. So definitely a decent trade. And again, this thing is just still trending to the downside. Unlike NZD USD, it has not broken any sort of resistance, and it actually has a great level of resistance right here, which lines up with previous lows, this new lower high that was formed. So if you want to re-enter this, we had drawn this last week. If we just go back to last week at market open, I had said we are not taking an entry on this unless we break and retest. And so you could have very easily taken an entry pretty much right here. So if we were to actually go back and just look at this, try to keep things simple, once we break support, we're in an established downtrend, a lot of momentum, very easy to take a trade at this level, or it's a very good idea to take a trade at that level because it's very solid when it comes to being a level of resistance. And also you see a lot of wicks, you're seeing some bearish variations here and whatnot, but now we're moving back. So let's take this. This is how it actually played out. Now we're pretty much coming back into resistance right here. This is also a supply zone. So if we want to take a trade, we would have to re-enter in this area. So this would be the trade idea. Entering here, stops would be somewhere in this area. And then we'd be targeting again that same level down here. Something like this. Now, if this breaks, because we're seeing ourselves come to a lot of resistance, if this does manage to break, this would then become the trade idea. It'd look something probably more like this, and we'd be reversing. So I always like people that have been on these calls, I always like to measure kind of two different ideas, because we don't want to. The fact of the matter is, if we take this trade and we get stopped, and then maybe we get it on the long, and this thing ends up moving to the upside, maybe we have our stops realistically like in this area, we lose 1%, we make 2.8%. Overall, we're profitable. So in my opinion, it's always good to kind of try to swing trade and have multiple ideas. But GU is looking good. I would move this one up the watch list. If this comes into this area and then ends up showing some resistance, definitely would want to scale in and try to short because we just got a lot of confirmations there. So that's GU. Let's go over to USD Cad. So last week we didn't do anything with USD Cad last week, just because it was just in an area where we needed to wait for it to either break to the downside or break to the upside. And as we're seeing, we actually did get this break to the upside. So I'm going to go back up to the weekly on this, and let's just kind of break this down and not forget really where we're at right now. So again, weekly, I like to draw out my zones. So I have this zone drawn here. This is based on support. We could go even further back, all resistance along this area. This is between like 1.295. So 1.295 and then 1.29. So it's, pretty wide range that we're in right here. Then we have all resistance all in this area. And then as you can see, we just broke the resistance, retested it, and found it as support, but a lot of buyers exhaustion here. So that's why I'm a bit weary on this one. Overall, we are in an uptrend on the weekly. So this thing is just moving to the upside, and this is just a new high. So we do have to be mindful of that. We're in this ascending like channel here, which normally isn't the strongest thing because this means that price is failing to make like really significant higher highs. But regardless, we're in an uptrend. We're above support. Candlesticks are not looking too pretty. Like just going through, this is how I think about things. Looking at my levels, looking at structure, looking at price action, and 2 out of 3 are lining up to be pretty bullish. The price action obviously not as good, but going down to the 4 hour, 4 hour price action looks a bit better. We're above the support level. We just made a significant move to the upside to make a new high. We do have like a demand zone pretty much like down in this area. So really, guys, if we did want to go with the just straight up go with the trend on this one, and if we wanted to bring fibs into the equation, which at this point I don't even use as much anymore, so I'm honestly just gonna even take it off because it doesn't really matter in my opinion. More looking at like levels, and those are gonna line up with fibs normally. So pretty much we'd be looking for something like this. I'd be looking for price anywhere kind of in this area to find support, start to consolidate on the lower time frame. And this is really where you're looking to try to enter. And then obviously we're looking for that next push to the upside. So really entries would be down in this area. Stops would be conservatively down here, but more aggressively up here. And then obviously you're either retesting this high, or another point to the upside, which we can actually move up to the weekly because we don't really have another level marked up there. And zooming out and looking at a little bit, I'm just going to mark a level right here. And what I'm looking at for this one is I'm looking at resistance, resistance, all on this area, support, resistance here, support here. Then we have some resistance right there. So obviously the market has come to this area many of times and has shown some rejection. I'm just going to go ahead and change that to red. And the reason I want to draw that is just because if we're going to take a swing trade here, ultimately we're looking at this level down here and we're assuming that price is not going to be revisiting this area and it's going to actually be moving to the upside, which would ultimately be the next main area of resistance, which in my opinion would be up in this zone. We could even move it down slightly because we have that kind of round number psychological 1.33 area. But that's what I'd be looking for. And considering how far away that is, we could move stops down a little bit more. The only reason I don't want to is just because if price does break this support, ultimately I believe that we're going to then see something like this, where we're going to see like a collapse. And then we're going to start to move more towards this downside right here. So this is really the trade for the week right now. The idea, looking at UCAD to take buys, rejecting the supply zone or the demand zone, and then taking buys to the upside, stops at about 60 pips, and then ultimate take profits at 340, first take profits at 190. So truly trying to swing trade this one. If you guys have any other ideas, USD Cad, feel free to drop in the chat. Then we've got Euro USD. So I haven't been following Euro USD as much, US 30 either. I have been following NAS 100 though, which we're going to get into pretty much in a second here. But let's first look at GBP Jpy. So GBP Jpy last week, we didn't take any trades on this one, but we did line up a decent analysis here. And let's just start off. I'm going to clear some things up. Let's just start off all the way on the weekly time frame, and I'll bring these things kind of back on here. So zooming out again, levels. So we have this level of resistance. So zooming out even further, I've got this thing drawn so far back. So we have all resistance, support, 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 resistance. Coming into this area, we have some support right here. We have some resistance here, and then ultimately, more recently, we have resistance here. So what I'm trying to get at is we have rejected this area so many times, 165, 500, 164, 500. Between this range, we have rejected it a multitude of times. We are in an uptrend. So first, I recognize our level. We are sitting below it. We are in an uptrend, so we're forming these higher high points and higher low points in the market. We're forming a bit of a double top right here, and you're starting to see obviously some rejection right there. But let's just zoom in. Let's look at price action a little bit. So price action is getting a bit choppy in this area. We just had a failed Morningstar candle. So if we were to measure this, we have the bearish candle, we have the doji, then we have the bullish candle. This is about 70 or 7, and then we have this is about 240. So this doesn't cover half. So I mean, they don't have to live and die by this, but this isn't exactly like a Morningstar. And if we were to go down to like the 4-hour and the 1-hour, this would mean that structure hasn't exactly broken yet on these lower time frames. So definitely something to be aware of. Now I can't decipher, like, based on my weekly analysis, exactly what direction to go in. I mean, we're just bullish, but we're at major resistance right now, but we haven't formed any significant price action on the weekly, which tells me or gives me like a crazy confirmation that we're going to push right here. So coming down to the 4-hour, this is where it looks a bit more interesting. And this is what we covered last week, was basically we were just in this downtrend. We actually took some sells several weeks ago. We were riding sells from like this area and this area, if you guys were on the calls. But now look at this. We just actually broke. And this is another good example for you guys that are more beginner. Just hide this, come down to the lower time frame, or come down to where you're at, hide the candles, look at market structure. This clearly broke the trend. So now we're starting to reverse here. All this is telling us is that more buyers are stepping in than sellers at the moment. But instead of me taking a buy right here, which some might do, I'm looking at it like this. We are at a huge level of resistance. Again, this is a zone that has been rejected so many times. So in order for me to play it safe, really need this thing to get above this area. We need more confirmation that this is an uptrend. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather be patient on this than get burned. You know, we obviously can see the trend is reversing. But again, it just would be nice to see this thing move more to the upside. Now, if we wanted to do some sort of like pattern recognition, we could actually try to draw like a head and shoulders pattern. It's good to try to always look for these. So you can kind of assume this is the right shoulder or this is the right shoulder. And then as you can see here, the trend line is really steep right here. So it's obviously slanted downward pretty significantly because of the fact that this lower high was so much lower than this area. But still, this is a play, a way to trade this. If you wanted to get in a bit earlier, you could basically utilize the head and shoulders pattern. This pattern, again, is very strong pattern to use. So you could use this and basically buy based off this retest. And if you were to do this, this would kind of be what your trade would look like. Say you entered, you know, in a buy right now. It's kind of hard to tell where to put your stops in this example, just because you don't have like a support below here. You have obviously down here, you have very minor support right there. So that's probably where you would put it. And then ultimately what you'd be doing is you'd have to look to the upside. All right, our next target is all the way up there. So I'm not going to be targeting that for now. Probably just going to be targeting this level and then ultimately this level. Still 3-to-1 risk reward. And if we wanted to even move stops to be extremely conservative, we can move them as far as down there, knowing that this is kind of our targeted zone. So yeah, this is a trade idea for GJ. You could enter this now. It's extremely high risk because it just doesn't fit my rules entirely. Better to wait for it to break up here and then find support. But again, you could enter this right now. And then if this thing just breaks support right there, it's gonna just collapse to the downside, which is why this is kind of a good spot to put our targets. I'm gonna just put them a little bit closer because if this breaks this area, we don't want to be in this trade anyway, because then it's going to become actually a sell opportunity to the downside. So GJ trade idea that we have a bit more risky, but the entry is there. And then let's get into NAS 100. So this is a trade that we took last week. Ended up playing out okay. It went up about 2.5 to 1, but now we're starting to retrace, obviously. So coming up to the weekly time frame, let's kind of see what's going on this one, and just so we don't lose focus on where we're at. So weekly time frame, we've got obviously clear downtrend. So this thing broke, it was an uptrend forever, broke to the downside, retested, and then now we're starting to get a bit antsy at this area, right? We went down, bullish engulfing, failed to engulf that, engulfed again. So buyers are stepping in. Look at last week, a lot of rejection to the downside. So a ton of buyers are building up in this area. Will it then explode to the upside? Who knows? We don't actually know. But the way this is looking is that buyers are building up to potentially push to the upside. Now let's just consider where's our level. We have this level at 11,800, 11,900 area. And if I just zoom out, very simple, this is just based on resistance support right there. And then we had some support in this area as well. So with that in mind, let's go down to the lower time frame. This trade that we were in should not be in this anymore. I mean, it's all the way back at break even now. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to take this off. And let's just kind of do an evaluation of really where we're at. And what I mean by that is when would I basically try to take buys on this? And looking at how we have a supply zone up here, which we need to really clear, I would love to take buys on this if we see a break. Because remember, this is consolidating a lot on the higher time frame. So weekly is showing a lot of signs that this thing's going to make a new high. And ultimately, if it does make a new high, it's going to push back into these levels up here. So this is really what we'd be looking for, something like that. I would only be shorting this if it's very simple. I mean, it's already shown us this twice. If price comes up in this zone and it shows rejection, meaning engulfing candle, wicks, evening star, not exactly like the cleanest variation here, but evening star here, you kind of calculate, can kind of like just say that it is, even though it's not a perfectly made, but it's showing reversal on a lower time frame break of structure. If we see something like that, definitely going to want to take sells on this one. So this is just kind of forecasting. Obviously we're doing quite a bit of forecasting for the pairs that aren't where we want them to be yet to take entries, take trades and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of my idea on NAS 100. So I'm not going to spend crazy amount of time on it because ultimately we need to see it reach this area, show rejection, some consolidation, or it's just going to burst above. And then that's when we take buys, setting buy limits, maybe just wait for it to come down, wait for price action. I like to use limit orders. Like once it confirms, I'm just trying to grab it once it reaches into this area again. So that's kind of how I would approach it. But last but not least, we're going to get into BTC. So again, just a reminder for you guys, I see some people posting in the chat, feel free to ask some questions and whatnot. Make sure to post for the giveaway. So just post on your IG story, us going over the charts, just post that you're on the session, and then I'll just pick one person for the 10K giveaway. I'll just look after we're off the call. So I like to end it off with just a little bit of crypto. I don't personally margin trade this at all. I just buy and hold. We've been going over the BTC strategy, the McDonald's strategy. We might have to come up with a new name for it because, at this point it's starting to get, I guess, interesting. Not really. I mean, there's really nothing going on with BTC right now. I mean, some people are saying that it's significant that we formed this rejection here from the 20 level or the 19.5 level, right? We're starting to form some bullish price action. Like I see people across social media and they're like, oh, Ethereum has broken the 4-hour resistance and now we're headed to the upside. Like,
I'm not convinced yet.
yeah, I'm definitely not convinced. If anything, this is like a trap. Like, I don't know. It's kind of difficult. Like I see people posting, they're like, Ethereum's about to lead the market, like back to the upside. I mean, look at the gains on this. Just like 50% if you called Ethereum when it hit wick the bottom.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh my God. So fucked up. So, I mean, that's Ethereum. I'm not sure whether Ethereum is going to be leading the market. I mean, I still have XRP coming down to 20 cents. I still have BTC coming down to 12. Like, I'm really not too optimistic about like crypto at the moment. I'm more just kind of dollar cost averaging at these levels, and I'm not trying to make any calls or anything because at the end of the day, no one really knows. I mean, no one knows what this thing's going to do. It's extremely speculative at this point. So I mean, it could take off from here. I mean, we don't actually know what's
no idea.
gonna happen.
It could be like the slingshot strategy, and it just takes off and starts giving us higher lows, back to bullish.
Back to bullish.
We don't know yet. We need to see a little bit more. I wouldn't really look at this consolidation or this formation down here and be like, we're back to bullish. Not yet. Not yet.
I mean, look how long even like previously it consolidated here for like, what is this? Several months, 4 months.
Yeah, at the low, right? That's what you're saying, 4,000. Yeah. In a span of 2 years total consolidation between 12 and 4. I'm pretty sure it's about 2 years. More even.
3.
2.5. Yeah, almost 3. So
strap up because we're about to be in this for a while.
Oh yeah. This is the long-term game. Honestly.
Yeah. This is gonna be, I mean, just look at it like this, guys. I mean, if this thing does, I always forget which one this is.
Yeah, the bar pattern.
If this thing does sit down here, let's just say it comes down even to like 20 and then ends up slingshotting. this is probably what we're looking at. I mean, originally I had it up here, but that got smoked.
Yeah, in a more realistic perspective, something like this is what we yeah, could expect.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So I mean, just our strategy is DCA. DCA strategy, dollar cost average, keep yourself in the game. And that's really it, guys. Just
Yeah.
fucking stay in it.
The hardest thing is the patience where, people will close out the losses and you won't give yourself a chance to actualize these gains. It really is at this point now, even more so a slow, a future kind of investment, something that we're gonna have to wait on. We're not gonna see immediate returns from this, how it used to be on the rally and stuff. But it will again. When will that happen? Maybe a couple years, maybe 1 year. We need to follow the price action and we're not there yet.
One thing I will say is from the last time that obviously like the crypto market crashed and the market came down, whatever. This time there's so much more going on in crypto. I mean, just with the NFT market, I mean, although NFTs, are pretty interesting, but there's so much more use case right now when it comes to BTC. There's so many more companies invested at like an institutional level. The technology, blockchain itself is being used across so many different industries. So unlike last time, I mean, the last time crypto crashed, I mean, there was really nothing going on. Like everyone was like just talking about Bitcoin ATMs.
Yeah,
Like,
it was just the coins.
yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. There is a lot more to it now. Now, whatever that means for the future of this chart, maybe we'll spend half as much time in consolidation, or we'll see this next rally be the biggest one yet in terms of volume. That is a good point. It's a lot more adoption now, but also a lot more to come.
But we can't rule out the possibility that Bitcoin never breaches 60K again.
We can't rule out the possibility, you're saying.
No, we can't. I mean, imagine Bitcoin just goes like this for the next like 20 years. That would be crazy. That would be so crazy. It
Yeah,
just
that would be kind of surprising. Normally,
Okay.
I would expect this to happen in more of a developed market, where I would consider crypto still kind of early. But I mean, you don't really know. We could talk theory all day. I mean, we could spend till next Sunday talking this over,
How do we compare? I'd love to compare Nas 100 to this.
Okay.
How do we do that? I don't even know.
Well, to do side by side, you mean?
What the hell is this? Is this Nas
Yeah.
100?
Oh yeah.
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 Okay, so look how this correlates. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of crazy.
What's up with the shift though?
I
Would
don't
you just
know.
mark it from a certain point?
I don't know. It's like the view is fucked up. Hold on, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, what's
I like this tool though. There it is. This.
this is yeah, because I'm trying to catch it. What the fuck? Oh, here we go. It's a little better. I mean, let's just leave it right here. I mean, guys, look. So obviously, explain for people that don't know what Nas 100 actually is.
So, all right. NAS 100 is essentially, it's an indice, and it shows, I'm going to get you exactly what's included in it. I think it's the top tech companies.
Yeah,
Large
it's the
companies
top
listed there.
100 tech companies. I don't know the
Yeah.
exact ones that are included in it though.
But it's representing the top 100 tech companies essentially. And this has a direct correlation with, anything tech, including crypto. So there are some correlations here. Yeah, like we could probably just look at these waves.
It's like correlated in the sense that, I mean, like tech is obviously a lot more developed in the sense that the companies most of them have physical products or softwares, whatever, and they're being utilized, across different organizations and obviously consumer basis as well when it comes to Apple and stuff. And so there's I guess there's a bigger market cap when it comes to all this stuff. I mean, what is the market cap for Apple? Like bigger than crypto entirely, like pretty much. I don't know. It's like don't quote me on that, but I think it's like relatively close.
So yeah, as a market, that's crazy.
Let's actually look it up. The Apple market cap is 2.43 trillion. And the crypto market cap
It's low right now.
is under 1 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is nuts.
What
So
about at its peak? Even at its peak. Let's see.
at its peak, I don't know what it's like at its peak. I think at its peak it might have been 3.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, even so, it's still below. But regardless, I mean, tech stocks for the most part, historically, people have just been bullish on them, and obviously been buying them and whatnot. But it's a pretty good mood for the market because it really just tests, in my opinion, like where are investors trying to speculate? Like tech is, in my opinion, it's not like risky, like because over time it has obviously made significant amount of money, but it's still making bets on companies that are based on their technology evolving and innovation and succeeding and
Right.
whatnot, which is why there's so much potential when it comes to them. But at the same time, if things go wrong, there's chances of things blowing up. I mean, say Tesla all their rockets start to just blow up and like their cars run people over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna really hurt the stock and really hurt the company. So what I'm trying to get at is it's interesting how tech is very correlated with crypto. I mean, looking at every time that tech has kind of taken a dip, we're seeing crypto fucking dip and bottom out. And here we're seeing crypto dip and bottom out. And right now we're seeing a huge sell-off in tech. I mean, we haven't seen a sell-off this significant in quite some time. I mean, there was a 28% dip back with the COVID, but that's obviously kind of different. This has been one of the largest sell-offs in tech.
Yeah.
24.
It's definitely down. Definitely down a lot. I mean, shit, they consider 30% a crash. That's like the threshold.
Yeah, I mean, this is I don't know how else you would want to consider a crash.
Yeah.
It's definitely a crash. I mean, this is down 20-30%. This is down your mother's ace,
A
70.
good 8.
It's good 70%. Good
Oh
70%
man.
down. Like fuck. It's a
Yeah.
big spin off. I mean, look at it. Let's look here. This was down 60% when we had this dip. This one dipped like 50%. So I don't know. I'm not trying to correlate these things like that closely and whatnot, but at the same time, looks like we might have some more room to go down, but we haven't seen a correction lower than these percentages ever. So
Right.
if it continues to move down, that would be quite surprising.
Yeah. Historically, catastrophic.
Yeah, it would be like the biggest crash ever. I mean,
Oh man. So like, with that, there's opportunity, guys. Because there's a crash, there's opportunity to lose a shitload of money, and there's also opportunity to make a shitload of money. Money is never disappearing. It's always trading hands in the market. So, that's something to note.
I mean, yeah, just look where we're at right now. Last two were like 27% crashes, ironically. And then this one, we're right around 29, 30. So we are in a fucked up position.
Yeah, definitely not a good looking chart. Not
No,
not something you want to see when you open it up.
no. And then you're seeing crypto. I mean, we could either measure it from here. Yeah, it's just like
Right.
crypto loves to take these fucking dumps. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
even hold on. We got to do it the other way. Here we
Yeah.
go. Let's
Yeah,
take this
61
off.
there. Yeah, like Angelo was saying, we could see this type of price action, consistently develop for the next, few years or even longer.
I mean, look where we're at. We haven't done, or I won't say we haven't done something as significant just because obviously the move entirely from the top, if we were to measure it from here, was 80%. So right now we're at about 70%, right? So if we
Where
were to,
does 80 put us? Yeah.
yeah, 80 would put us like more in this area. It would probably mean Nas would be moving down a bit more as well, which is pretty concerning.
Yeah. We're going to see a lot of those companies start to tank that we just mentioned. Tesla. Yeah, Darren, exactly. Tesla took a big hit from all-time high. That's probably the biggest, most Main Street one that everyone will know. If you look at a tech company, you know, Tesla, it's dumped quite a bit from the high, will continue to, along with Amazon, you know, Facebook, all the big guys that, you know, they're just going to start losing value.
Yeah, a lot of
Until-
opportunity with this stuff, guys. With the market coming down, what you really should be focusing on, and this is, you know, just my opinion, is you guys should just be focusing on your businesses and things that can produce cash. Because ultimately right now you really want the dollar because the market's just crashing. So the dollar, I mean, even though the inflation is so fucking high, I mean, if you can leverage that into buying assets while they're low, the dollar is actually having the dollar is extremely useful right now. Considering how down the market is. I mean, inflation's up what, 9%, but the market's down fucking 40%.
Yeah. Yep.
So
It's
if you
true.
use the dollar to buy the market and it ends up recovering, I mean, we're fucking
Yeah.
chilling.
Exactly. To that point, you know, there'll be a time to you know, switch off and, you know, start buying these assets again. You know, we
Yeah.
just have to follow and don't feed into the emotions. No FOMO, no greed. Leave all that shit at the door. You know, when it's time to execute, you know, we'll be here. We'll be here marking it up. I can promise you guys that. Once this does turn around, Angela and I will be here on Sunday
Yeah, well, but
breaking this down.
we stayed through the last crash, so we'll be here.
Yeah, the last couple shit. So like, yeah, we'll be here, guys, every step of the way.
So yeah, that's
But
pretty much it.
Lambo,
I'm gonna think about the McDonald's strategy. We're gonna think how much longer this is gonna take. But again, guys, thanks for hopping on the session. Last chance to post on your story. If you guys want to qualify, 10K challenge giveaway for TFT. A lot going on with TFT this week. We got multiple polls running right now, and it looks like pretty much everyone voted. Everyone voted for the instant funding. So they voted for an instant funding model, even though it was close. It was 423 for instant funding, 405 for 10K and 25K challenges. So pretty close poll when it comes to that. And then you guys voted on the logo. We got that good. Yeah, you guys voted on the situation with Karukman. We got that finalized. And then we got this lot size rule for competition. So last thing I want to talk about is this upcoming weekend. We are doing the meetup NYC. So we're going to be there for the weekend. So if you guys are available, definitely suggest that y'all come through. Friday, we're going to be doing a meet and greet. And then Saturday's a NYC like scavenger hunt that we're organizing. One person's going to win some money. So details will be dropped in the Discord and the Telegram. Look out for more updates. Appreciate you guys all hopping on for the session. Oh yeah, and we got the people might have misunderstood the 50% off the K is 50% off every plan. Yeah. I don't know what they. Well, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, it says 50% off a 50K challenge. So I don't know if they couldn't figure it out. It's on them. Yeah, that's somebody said. Oh, that's you, Lambos. Oh man, it's true.
yeah,
True.
the Lambo strat. That's what this is right here.
Lambo soon. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hope you enjoy the week, and we'll catch you guys in the next week's session.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Peace.